It's spelled Slainte, and it's pronounced slancha.
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 Somebody once said, just think it's a lawn chair. So anyway, I want you all to lift your liquids. Get my liquid ready. I'm going to say one of my favorite Irish toasts, and then afterwards we'll all say slancha. So this is directed more at the men here. This is a famous Irish toast. May you die in bed at 95, shot by a jealous husband. So I'm going to play a piece called The Swan. So maybe now you get what was in there. And this solo was written by Camille Saint-Saëns, the great French composer. But it's the idea comes from the Tchaikovsky, the great Tchaikovsky ballet, Swan Lake, one of the most famous ballets of all time. And the story of Swan Lake is the beautiful princess is cursed by the evil witch. And by day she's a swan, and by night she wanders in the forest as her beautiful princess self. Well, one day the neighboring prince is wandering in the forest at night and he finds her. Of course, he falls in love with her. He's determined to save her. She refuses to tell him what's going on. He plots and schemes of how he can get her to marry him. And while he's doing that, one day he and his buddies decide to go out hunting swans. The inevitable happens. He shoots his beloved. She does a famous dying swan dance and dies, and then turns back into the princess, now dead. It's a really bad day for the prince. So Camille Saint-Saëns wrote a beautiful piece called Carnival of the Animals, aimed for children to get acquainted with the instruments of the orchestra. So each little vignette has a story. I think Ogden Nash wrote the narration for it, and tells a story about an animal and then a particular instrument. Like, I think the basses represent the elephants, for instance. And the cello represents the swan, the dying swan. And so the narrator talks about, you know, the swan, the beautiful dying swan dance. And it's just a 3-minute piece, but as soon as he wrote it, ballerinas just jumped on it like, oh my God, we can have the greatest solo here now. We don't have to do the whole swan-like ballet. And so Anna Pavlova, the great Russian ballerina, was the first one to choreograph it and dance to it. And she made it very, very famous. People were astonished. They said when she did the wings of the swan, her arms looked boneless. So forever after, every ballerina who performs the dying swan has to make an attempt to have boneless arms. But it's a beautiful dance. It's just beautiful. And then a great pianist, Leopold Godowsky, took the cello and piano version and made it into a solo piano version. And amongst pianists, it's kind of famous. And then a Dutch pianist made another version for solo piano, and I liked some parts of each, but I didn't like all of them, so I took this from here and that from there, and I patchwork quilted it all together. And I didn't like the ending, so I wrote my own. So you will never hear the swan like this ever. So I hope you enjoyed. The main theme is